G'day and welcome to our roundtable today here on 4BC. It's a special one. We've brought in some experts from OnDeck, Cameron Poolman. I'll introduce him in just a moment. What we're doing today is giving Brisbane businesses some advice on what they can do. And of course, this is general advice only. So please talk to your financial advisors and do all that stuff you have to do. But we're here to talk small business and we're here to talk about challenges with one of the best in the business. Now, Cameron Poolman is the CEO of OnDeck Australia. Wonderful supporters of 4BC and small businesses. We've been giving away $1,000 business boosts on air, which is great. He spearheaded fast and flexible finance solutions for thousands of small businesses since 2015. So they get it. They understand your struggles. They understand the challenges that you face every single day in small business. Previously, he served as the founding CEO of Grays Online. You probably bought a carton of wine off this bloke at some stage in the journey of Grays Online, scaling it into an e-commerce powerhouse with over $500 million in annual online sales. Cameron Poolman is recognised as a leader in fintech, entrepreneurship and commercial lending policy. Joins us now. G'day, mate.
G'day, Jason. Thanks very much for having me here.
Mate, great to be here. When you think small business in Australia, what are some of the challenges at the moment?
Look, obviously cash flow is really hard. I think expenses are going up, which is difficult, whether it be energy, whether it be the cost of labour. And I think there's just a lack of confidence at the moment, particularly after that last budget. You know, we need consumer confidence to lift because if you've got a restaurant or a retailer, you want people to start buying stuff and get the economy going again. And
the other thing too, there's not a lot of confidence in the consumer.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
and again, and we were talking about this before over a triangle sandwich. We were talking about the fact that consumers don't, like in my instance, and it's like people would come in 5 days a week to grab a coffee, right? Now they're only coming in 2 days a week because, you know, things have gone up everywhere. And that's it. There's challenges for both the consumer and the retailer. So it's difficult on both sides.
Yeah, look, absolutely. It is harder. I mean, things have pivoted. I think at COVID, we saw a lot more people working from home. And as you said, you know, we saw small businesses struggle a little bit more in the capital cities because exactly what you're saying. There's less people going to the restaurants and, you know, buying coffee when you go in the morning.
Well, what are your thoughts around government now I mean, Victoria have done it, right? They're mandating 4-day working weeks from the office and 1 day you work from home. I mean, that's a terrible decision for small business.
Yeah, look, I absolutely hate it. It's ridiculous. Don't mandate it. You know, look, flexible work is great, but don't mandate it. You know, it works differently for different industries, for different companies. So, you know, our business, we're 4 days in the office, 1 day at home, and that works really well for us.
But you've got the flexibility if you need to bring them in, you can, right?
Absolutely.
Rightio. So today we've arranged a couple of small business owners here in Brisbane, just everyday businesses, different backgrounds as well. They're going to ask you some advice and we'll give them some tips. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Rightio. Tameka Davey, owner of Elite FM, a boutique consultancy that delivers project management across residential, commercial and state environments. How are you, Tameka?
I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
No, good. Now, you've been around for a while in business, 10 years so far in this business, and you came from big corporate before getting into your own business, right?
Yes, that's correct. So I started my business around 10 years ago, and I've come from tier one backgrounds in residential aviation environments. So I've sort of pivoted into a small business or into my own business to help small and medium business owners try and understand how they can actually improve on their asset management.
So who is your customer?
My customer can actually be anyone that actually has a project, let's say, that they need to try and deliver. The biggest issue that we have in the industry or with business owners is that they don't like to spend money because they don't have it or they don't know how to actually spend it more effectively. So what we look at doing is more of a preventative approach and actually helping business owners go, you know, stop band-aiding things. Let's put some money into actually getting the longevity out of your asset so that you can actually then put the rewards back into the staff and the people.
Right. Okay. We'll come back to you. I've got some stuff I want to talk to you about, and obviously you've got some questions for Cameron. My favourite guest here today brought me in chocolates. And that is a winner for me, Gerard Gossens, owner of Chocolate Moments. Now, you're in the CBD and Graceville. Welcome, Gerard.
Thank you.
A bit about your business. How long have you been running this business for? And you're doing it with your wife, Heather, is that right?
Yeah, so we've had Chocolate Moments for almost 2 decades. And we started as a small sort of retail chocolate business and had to evolve into something very different when the construction of the Cross River Rail impacted our business for where we were in Albert Street. So evolved from what was purely chocolate retail into a cafe, and then had to support that with obviously our second site over at Graceville, where we purely couldn't be and survive as a commercial kitchen. So Graceville does 2 purposes, as in does the kitchen, provides the food for the city store as well.
How do you survive? I mean, you talk about, I think you call it double cross river rail. How do you, I mean, when you're in impact, and I think of like where I'm from on the Goldie, but the light rails caused issues for businesses up and down the coast. How do you manage a major project that's being built, which you've got no control over? And look, it's 5 years behind schedule as it is. How do you manage a business not knowing when this is going to finish? Like, how do you survive?
We were brought to our knees, and it was desperate. And the reason being is because for 2 years prior to the demolition of all the works around Albert Street, we were assured by the Cross River Rail Authority at that time that we would be looked after when push came to shove, when the blockage of customers to our store was impacted. And it was very, I suppose, a good move on their behalf, because it got to a point where the streets were blocked off that much that come Easter, we lost $100,000 over Easter that year. And I went to the cross, or as I call it, as you said, double cross river rail, that, hey, look, time has come. And they said, unfortunately, through state legislation, we'll put through legislation where we actually can't assist the businesses in Albert Street. So we were left somewhat stranded. Luckily, through knowing, as a Paralympic athlete, I knew a few Olympic athletes and who owned a couple shopping centres and had relationships within the building industry within Brisbane. So we were able to relocate again back in Albert Street, but had to evolve into a cafe. And that was something that was very unfamiliar to us. So it was change is constant, growth is optional.
There you go. And I love that, because a lot of small businesses now are thinking about, oh God, where am I going to get that non-traditional revenue from, or how am I going to grow my business by stepping outside my safe space? So you've got the 2 stores, both in Brisbane. I want to talk to you both, and Cameron, come in at any time here. You hear the stories. Business was great. COVID comes along. Tameka, how did that impact your business?
So it severely impacted our business. As one of our major clients was aviation, and obviously because all the aircraft were grounded, therefore there was cost cuttings within internal businesses that they then the low-hanging fruits end up being maintenance and services, and that's where they said, yeah, your contract's done. So at the time I had 7 staff, and I did need to, unfortunately I tried to keep them on as long as I could, but financially it was a massive impact. So we did have to make them redundant. So that was a massive impact. And
retail just shut down too, didn't it, Gerard?
Yeah, Brisbane CBD for us was horrific, and we were supporting a lot of staff, and some of them were on visas. And so we were very, I suppose, aware of their, predicament. So we supported them, still paying them whilst our stores were closed, particularly in the CBD. And still, the city is still recovering from COVID, because obviously that work from home policy really impacted both not us, but also many other stores in Brisbane CBD.
Yeah.
So we really struggled as well, Jason. Like, we had 30% of our customers during COVID weren't paying us. And so, we borrow money from other people to lend to small businesses. And so we sort of broke every covenant in the book. And I remember sitting at the beach and looking out over the water, and one of the directors rang me and said, "We've tried hard. This is the end." And we found a way. And it was interesting. I think nearly all our small business customers found a way. They pivoted, they were resilient, and it was fantastic. And it's interesting in the office, you see the people that were there during that time, and it's like an exaggeration, but you've sort of been through a war together. And I think a lot of small businesses have felt that, and it's that they now can sort of face up to anything, whether it's a road change or a tram out the front or a flood in your office. You actually have that resilience to be able to deal with something, because COVID was terrible.
Yeah. How did you pivot? How did you recover from that, Tameka?
I did a couple of pivots, I guess. During the actual COVID, I went and got my licence under NDIS under 11 different streams, because what I wanted to do was still be able to give back to the communities and still work out how do we make something out of nothing. So I did that for probably about a year or two. The company's still going, but it was going a different way to where I wanted to go. So I sort of said, yeah, parted ways, and then just went back into the facilities. But the biggest change for me right now is I've learnt to not try and do multiple things, really focus on one, because I'm finding that businesses don't like to take a lot of risks, as in like the residents or commercial owners, and that they just want to know, what do I have to do? So we've really sort of pivoted now into that client-side project management, and we're finding that we're getting a lot more ability to deliver more effectively, because we can actually then do a turnkey solution to give them longevity on their actual outcome of their projects.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about an event that finished, 4 or 5 years ago, but we can actually still learn from it right now because business is evolving every single day, right? Gerard, what was the biggest change you had to make coming back from COVID?
I think being aware of the changes that were needed to really extend that revenue base. So, for example, we went from just only obviously doing chocolate, but then becoming serving coffee, but then obviously making sure we actually had the ingredients to serve the lunch, the breakfast, but then also expanding out the catering. Now, you've gone from an athlete who's been focused purely on performance, and now to serving and making food and being a chef of all trades. From coming out just being a chocolatier. So we've really had to expand our range of revenue through different bases and different opportunities.
Yep. All right. A question for all of you. And Cameron, you might want to kick this off as well. And by the way, you get the chance to ask questions soon, all right? It's hard to shut me up. Cameron, what's your advice for anyone watching this who has a business, small, medium or large? What's a tip for building trust with your clients?
So I suppose when you start, it's very much around the founder, and you build that trust. You obviously keep in contact, but then to scale your business, you need more people involved. You need sort of to have more salespeople, and so that's a sort of a slow transition. And so what I do is that you have your sort of salespeople dealing with your customers, but then we have like quarterly business reviews, and so it looks to the customers, which is true, that I'm still across everything, and so it builds that trust with people sort of on the day-to-day, as well as they know that the CEO is involved. And I think also too is that, when you get older like I am, a lot of people want to deal with younger people, and so on the day-to-day. So it's much better. So that's how we do it.
Yeah. What about you, Tameka, getting back into it? How did you earn the trust from clients who probably don't have a lot of money post, say, COVID, and trying to lure a new business to your business and leaving who they're with?
For me, it's actually realising, taking a self look at myself and going, it is actually myself. It is that it's building the trust that they actually are going to get you. They are going to continue to see you, that you're not just the person that's standing on the top and, waving down. It's actually, hi, how are you? And building that trust. And I thought that having a business, you get told a lot of different things. It's like, don't be in the business, be on the business. You can't grow if you're in it. I actually feel that I've got to be in the business to actually grow it. I've got to have my finger on the pulse to make sure that I'm giving the outcome and the delivery to my customer. So it is trust. And that's been a very big lesson, because I thought that I could get other people to do that, and it's not. And that was I think for me financially, it's like, oh, okay, I have to actually be in it. So I'm recognising that, and I'm actually loving it more than what I have in the last 10 years. I think because now I realise that it's a way to go.
And Gerard, the retail food space, as you know, I'm in it as well. It's a tough business. There's Like every man and his dog sells coffee.
Particularly me. Every man and his dog.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's very good. But mate,
He also does lab reports as well.
Oh, there you go.
And CAT scans as well.
No, let's not go into that. How do you?
Instead of $537, I can do it for half the price. Mate.
Yeah, that's right. This is reference to something happened on my breakfast show today. But Gerard, how do you convince someone to go to you to get a coffee or try your chocolate when it's such a competitive business?
I think for me is making sure, after COVID, and then we were offered opportunities to move to, for example, as I call it, the nuclear waste of chocolate, the compound chocolate, or to move to a cheaper coffee or cheaper ingredients. And I think for me, it's making sure that we had the premium product. We use, the Millennium Milks, we use the Calibre, we use the really high quality ingredients. I'm making sure I'm there tasting all the ingredients that go into our food.
Do you need help with that?
Well, yeah.
I'm available. Just let me know.
I noticed you've got that. So it's for me, it's making sure that our quality is there. So when people walk into chocolate moments or graceful moments, it is about the experience. And I have, I'm very proud that, for example, I bought some chocolate here today, and that's because I'm proud of it. Yeah. And I don't hide it. I'm happy for people to know that, as I said to you before, when you try my brownies, your life will change.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I haven't still had that yet. I didn't want to get chocolate on my teeth doing this video.
That's right.
How do you then share that with your staff? How do you get your staff to be as passionate as you are about your product? Is it impossible to do, Gerard, or
No.
is it? Do they just pick that up off you?
Because they come on the journey with me, because they know how I make the chocolate. They get offered the opportunity to invest in some of the flavors, the designs of the actual chocolate.
Brilliant.
Or how we actually create the, for example, where it be, okay, well, we noticed people are asking for this particular product for lunch, so we can do that. And that's the great thing about having my own commercial kitchen, is that if a person walks in, for example, and says, oh, I want an avocado chocolate, I can do it. I make beer chocolates. People just walk in and say, oh, I want a Guinness chocolate, I can do it.
Fair income. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you're flexible. You can pivot at any time.
Yeah, and that's what you have to be in small business, is that ability, because a staff member can call up and call in sick. Okay, what do you do? So you've got to have that ability to have those resources at hand to fill that spot. Otherwise, you're gone.
And it's what you're saying, Tameka. When you're in the business, that's when you find out. I mean, I love getting behind the coffee machine. I make the worst coffee, but I have the best conversation on Saturday mornings with my customers when they come in. I also get good content from my radio show just talking to these people, but they give me feedback about new products, the team. And mine's a family business. My kids work in there as well. So I wouldn't know half that stuff if I didn't work in there. I wouldn't know if a cold foam wasn't selling unless I was actually in the business day to day. So you're right, working in the business is just as important as working on the business.
I think even in the industry that I'm in, it's also about leadership. Leadership has got to come a long ways, because we're in a different age bracket to the young up and coming children today, and they do everything so differently. Like that, it's not about picking up a phone anymore. It's about sending an email or sending a text, and it's about helping the next generation is understand that it's okay to talk to people, and let's go on that journey together, and let's go and meet people. Let's go on sites. Let's be flexible with change.
Yeah.
And my daughter works with me 3 days a week, and it's really interesting watching her change her way of delivering, because she can see that we have to go on site, we go and meet the people, we talk to them. So it is that confidence, and the change is also about the leadership that we provide to our staff and give them the trust to be able to do things too.
What do you do, Cameron, when it comes to leadership and trust with staff?
I'm just laughing. I think we all get our kids to work.
Yeah, I know. Well, they charge us full rate though.
Yeah, she does. My daughter's on the phones at the moment in Sydney, so
it's incredible.
So she loves it, and she wants to get increased commissions and so on. But look, I think our business is slightly bigger than these guys, but you've got to be in the business. You've got to know what's happening. That gives you credibility. It gives the business credibility. You've got to drive those values that drive small business. So it's being aware, it's being switched on. I love that Gerard's talking about agility, making beer chocolate. Like, being agile is super important. Otherwise, you'll get chomped by big business. So
and that's why, for example, I've just designed, and I'm pointing out now, and that's this is it's first. I've designed a chocolate medal for Brisbane 32 So
brilliant.
I've actually got the mould coming from Belgium. So
Let me show you this.
I'll be the only chocolatier in the world. So I'll be able to design that from a gold, silver, bronze. I'll be able to sell it by packaging. I'll be able to use it for Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day as a staff reward and for corporate dinners. So I can use that. So I had to now be agile enough to come up with that creativity. Like I do a chocolate first aid kit.
See, that's a first aid kit I could get around.
Yeah.
I'd look after the first aid at work then.
Yeah. So it has, for example, things like, for example, chocolate pineapples, just in case you're feeling rough around the edges. Or chocolate bells, just in case things are taking a toll on you.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You know, just things like that.
Yeah, that's fun. Again, the agility to move. Hey, I noticed one of your challenges, Gerard, and it might be a good question for Cameron. You want to get some advice, and again, this is general advice only, so trying to balance price increases that won't cost you customers. I don't know whether you want to add to that more.
Look,
maybe Cameron can give you some advice.
I think for me, it's making sure that it's a lot of costs are not necessarily well aware within the community. You know, for example, whether the marketing costs that a larger company will place on you on the back end, or the security costs, or the cleaning costs, or all the regulations that come around small business. So, and then obviously the increase in coffee prices on a global perspective, and then the prices on chocolate prices. So it's making sure that they understand we're not just hiking up because we want more money in our pockets. It's because these are the costs that we're being imposed upon.
You absolutely. I mean, pricing is a science. So there is, from my experience, there is a cliff though. That if you get to a certain price, your customers will desert you. So I think, it's particularly in chocolate, and my knowledge of chocolate isn't great, but I do know the cost of cocoa has gone up significantly globally. So I would say most people would be aware of that, and also your other costs going in. So I think, you've got your pricing, which you need to optimise, but you need to look at the efficiencies in your business. It sounds as though you are, but that's as much as you can do. Look at reducing your fixed costs, so making sure that you sort of, they're the things like, your rent, trying to make sure that that's a lesser percentage of your overall sell price. So it's obviously trying to get more volume coming through your business. But it is difficult, but I think, watch those expenses, drive that efficiencies. Are there any machines that make things more easier, or you can produce more chocolate? Is there efficiency of using alternative energy suppliers? All of those things sort of fall into the mix of sort of driving increased profit.
And that's the thing, right? Because again, 1st of April or 1st of July, every single thing that we use to run our businesses goes up automatically, right? And then, of course, we've got a government that, to me, I feel like hates small business. They then decide to scrap junior wages that are starting to get phased out in December. And I see your reaction, Gerard. It's
devastating, seriously. Because we employ kids on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
And this is the other thing too, Jason, is that not only is it the salaries for them going, because we actually teach them. Like it's my wife Heather. Like it's almost like we take them through every day. It's hand on, sort of running them through the whole process.
Yeah.
And then what happens is if you have a dispute with an employee or whatever, they count as your staff. So if you're over 15, watch out, buddy. Yeah. Because you're counted over 15 staff, even though you're employing these young kids to help them out on weekends as well.
Yeah, it's incredible. So, and I'm sure most small business owners or all business owners realise that junior wages are getting phased out from December 1. It's over 3 years. So that means an 18, 19 and 20-year-old will now be seen as a senior staff member. So they'll be earning the wage for over 21. Again, I'm not against anyone earning a fair wage, but I mean, what about the small business that's providing it? And I know it's going to happen. People lose their jobs. All of a sudden, why would you employ an 18, 19, 20-year-old when you can employ a 25-year-old with more experience for the same money? It's about learning. So you're going to have people in businesses under 16 or under 17 and under, and then people over the age of 21. So those 18, 19, 20-year-olds, poor buggers, they're not going to get work because there's no value for small businesses. So there are so many things that you can't actually adjust, and it gets to a point, and we're seeing more and more small businesses close their doors. I think it was 14,000 in the last 12 months. I mean, and I understand your advice, Cameron, that you've got to try and help lower your fixed costs. What happens though if you can't increase volume?
Jason, I think we've actually had to flip it on the head, and the reason what we've done is we've actually said to people, okay, and look, if you want to, we don't go around sourcing compound chocolate. The internet, like when you walk down the supermarket aisle and you see all these other confectionaries, that's chocolate-coated confectionery. It's not chocolate, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we tell them, hey, listen, you want premium products, you come and see us. If you want nuclear waste, go and buy the other stuff.
Yeah. So you got to back your product.
Yep.
You got to back your product. Okay. Tameka, you wanted some advice on going up against the big players in your industry. I mean, this bloke does it every single day, right? What's the advice you want from Cameron?
So what I guess the biggest challenges that we see, and it's around, you've got comfort and within the bigger industries, the bigger players, because they're a brand that's already known. How does a small business able to get across that and build the trust within those current clients that it's okay to go to a small business? What is it that I can probably look at to actually help me improve on getting those businesses across the line?
So I think you talked about it before. I think you said you had 20 years experience in the industry. So I think
that's
more
more than that, but thank you.
Okay, but
I feel younger now.
But it does talk to that credibility, and I think that's with your marketing and around that. And I think sort of you need to sort of continue to sort of build that service around that, because then you can move around the big guys, because they're often moving staff around. They're often not as service orientated, and I think it also talks to, we talked around the agility. We also talked around dominating a niche. Is there a part of your industry where you could be the best at?
I believe there is, absolutely. And I think if you think about like being in the business and growing, I think the biggest challenge is the dollar in when you're pricing. If you're pricing your jobs, like you can't give your money, you can't do it for nothing, but you want to give them tier one service, but then they'll go with the bigger players because they've got, they can actually put a price point a lot cheaper because they've got, a lot more overheads. They can actually spread their project costs out across multiple projects. But for a small business, it's very hard to try and compete with that. Like you might have minor, smaller overheads, but it's now, okay, well, how do I actually then measure up to that? How can I compete my dollar for dollar when it comes to project management?
So one thing we try and we sort of speak to our sales guys to do is basically by the time you get in and out of a lift, be able to describe why you're better than the opposition. And so it's like maybe pick out 4 or 5 points that are really crisp where you're better than the big guys, and just push those ones. And I think that works better. Otherwise, you end up with a long dialogue and people get a little bit confused. And so that's helpful. And I think get into that niche and dominate it. And I mean, we found that. I mean, we compete against the banks, and so we're more expensive than the banks, but we're a lot faster. So last month, the average approval time for a loan under 200,000 was 4 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we say. We say we're faster, we're more convenient, and we deliver capital to small businesses quicker than anyone else, so you can get on with your life.
Yeah.
And so that's a sort of a quick message, and I think it is helpful in many small businesses to be able to do that.
I think the challenge we also face is that, Cameron, is that the multitude of communication channels. Like, okay, do you go Facebook? Do you go TikTok? Do you go WhatsApp? Do you go, CRMs? All that sort of stuff. It's for small businesses trying to communicate that message and who you are and what you do is so challenging these days.
You're right. It changes a lot. I mean, ever since I've been in these businesses for over 20 years, and I found radio to be really effective. So that's a good one, a good plug for you guys. But that's great.
I appreciate that.
Direct mail is another one, because no one's actually doing direct mail in letterbox. So when people go to their letterbox, there's not many letters in there. And so if you do that, so there's some things you can do that are a little bit different. But I totally agree with you. I get overwhelmed with digital marketing. And so you don't know, overall it works, you just don't know which bits are working. So we use partners, so get good partners, make sure you're your paid search, your organic search, your socials are all as best you can within your budget, and I suppose measure, know what your costs are, and ensure that you're sort of doing it in a profitable way.
Gerard, I look forward to you advertising on 4BC Breakfast in the coming weeks then. You heard the man. It's radio.
Was that afternoons or was that lunch?
No, breakfast. Let's move on. I just want to ask, Cameron, was the plan from OnDeck, and I think this is good advice for anyone, was your point of difference always going to be, I'm just focusing on small business? Did you see that as a whole in the market when it came to lending?
Look, we did. We saw that as the gap for unsecured small business because the banks were really strong if you wanted to put your house as security, right? So we saw that gap in the market. And then we went for a few years and we did multiple products and we actually worked out that we're actually pretty ordinary, a lot of products. So we weren't very good at equipment finance, we weren't good at car finance or invoice finance, but we were really good at unsecured because we had really, really strong data analytics team that could work out the propensity for a small business customer to pay us back. And so we decided 5 years ago to build the best product in the world. And so we decided we're just going to dominate a niche rather than provide a whole lot of different products. And that has worked really well for us.
And so that was about 6 years into your journey? Is that how long it took?
Yeah, well, we had a bit of an interesting journey during COVID. So whilst we nearly died, our parent in the US did die. And so it was an opportunity for us. We did a management buyout. And so our business is now majority owned by the staff in the office. And so we completely reset what we're going to do in terms of strategy and changed.
So the kids own part of the business, do they, in the office? All right, before we wrap this up, this has been great. And I hope people watching this on YouTube are picking up or listening to this on the radio are picking up ideas for their business. Gerard, any last questions for Cameron at all before we wrap up?
I think for me, it's obviously that, we have a lot of challenges with staff, as in like the recruitment staff, and it's actually finding those particularly, and Jason would experience this more so within the retail and hospitality industry, is that casual staff. It's actually, where do we find them and how do we find them? And
the good ones, eh?
Yeah.
It's nothing worse than getting that phone call 30 minutes before their shift going, I can't come in today because, my cat died,
Exactly.
And it's annoying, because you're already stretched. Where do you find it?
So one thing, I don't have the answer for it, but recruitment's difficult. But what we found is referrals work really well. So people that are friends or through their family networks actually often work out really well in our business. And so we incentivise that. So there's a nice gift for someone that refers a friend or someone into the business. And that really, really helps us.
What about you? Any last thoughts at all?
It's about the marketing. So if we talk a lot about the social media and the ways of marketing, like what percentage should we be looking at investing in marketing for our businesses?
That's a really difficult question. It depends on your product and your margins. So you've got to work out your cost per acquisition. So how much are you willing to pay to acquire a customer? Okay. And so then you work back from there. And so we measure that through every channel. Okay, so we'll know how much it costs through every marketing channel, and we optimise that every month and measure that. And so, to me, it's a little bit boring, but I'm a numbers guy, and so you do need to measure everything. And so that's what I would say with marketing, and you don't need to do it all yourself. There's a lot of really good. You're an advisor to someone else. There's some great digital advertising agencies, social agencies, etc. that can help you that aren't that expensive.
Okay.
Or 4BC. Just
or 4BC,
let us know.
yes.
Hey, listen, Cameron, any final words from you before we wrap up this thing? And I really appreciate you coming up to Brisbane for this today. I really do appreciate that. Any last bits of advice for the guys here or anyone watching or listening to this?
Look, thanks very much for having me. I love working with small business too. Obviously, been a small business for the last 25 years, and I think it is hard. So you guys are doing a great job. I love hearing that you the resilience you've got, but you're growing through these challenges that you've had over the last few years. And so I know there's 2.5 million small businesses in Australia. It's a really thriving community, and I hope we get more support from the government moving forward. But hang in there, and it's been fun chatting to you both.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Tameka. Thank you, Gerard, particularly for those chocolates. I really appreciate that. There you have it. This has been our business roundtable today with Cameron Poolman from OnDeck. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time on the roundtable.
Thank you.